What are we looking at today? Well, today is not a knife video. Today is stones. So we're going to look at all different kinds of stones. I don't have some, but we'll have pictures of them. But first, you guys take a look at this intro. So guys, I'm not going to lie, this is a really awkward angle to film from, and I'm sure that I'm really close to the microphone, so it's going to be really loud because I know I'm a loud person. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on diamond stones first, and we're going to bring this down and then take a look at them. So let's get everything else out of the way. So diamond stones are really popular and they're really common these days. And there's a handful of different kinds of them. So you have your diamond plates like these that are a steel-based plate that has a nickel layer that the diamond is impregnated on. And as it strips away, it goes. Then you have some that are like this Atoma plate, which is a diamond plate as well. And I just got done doing some sharpening, so they're still a little bit wet after cleanup. So this one is an aluminum plate with a steel film that the diamonds are on that is then glued onto that plate. And it's nice because then you can just peel this off with a putty knife and reapply a new covering. And then you have some that are, these are the cindered diamonds. I got these from Gritomatic. I forget what brand these were, but I got these from Gritomatic. These are pretty good, but the grit system's a little different. And then you have some that are like this. This is the diamond matrix stones. Now you can see the diamonds in that. So we're going to take a look at them, but we're going to look at the diamond plates first. My other phone rang. So we're going to look at these diamond plates first, and then we'll get into the differences. This might be a little bit longer video. So diamond plates, these are the ultra sharps. I got these. Jared recommended them. Now, if you're somebody that is only sharpening a couple knives here and there, probably not going to be something that would be too bad for you. For me, you can kind of see areas where the diamond has kind of stripped out. Let me see if I can get some of that color. Can you see here on the sides and then down here in the middle, it's really slick. These aren't perfectly flat, but they do a pretty good job. This is a 300, this is a 600. And then, like I said, here is the Atoma. Now, this Atoma is very aggressive and is really good for reprofiling. Diamond stones will work really well for the majority of steels. There are some steels that have a tendency to load them up, and they can get kind of full, and you have to clean them because of the steel. But the fact is, it's still going to cut it. There is no steel that these aren't going to cut. There is no material these aren't going to cut, and so that gives you a toolbox where you can use it on any steel. Now, there are some downsides to these steel ones like this. These are really similar to the CrazySharp and things like that. They have a tendency to rust. I will admit they have a tendency to rust. Part of this is because I didn't take care of them. Part of it's because they're always wet. I do a lot of sharpening. But these are fairly cheap. I would not say that if you're going to do some sharpening here and there that you should shy away from these. These would hold up really well for the average person around the house just to touch some stuff up. And you get three. Like I said, with the Atoma has got this screen, as they call it, or a slit that goes over top. And you can very easily change this out if you want, and then put that, put a new one on when it wears out. Or if you're like me and you do a lot of sharpening and you want to take up less space, I'm thinking about buying a second grit, maybe like a 250 or something like that, and sticking it on the other side and then have a two-sided stone. So there are your diamond plates. They are really handy, but the fact is, like I said, the diamonds do wear off pretty rapidly if you sharpen a lot and if you use any amount of pressure, and they do rust. So that might be something you want to look away from and look at some of these other options like the matrix and the sintered. So let's go ahead and get these out of the way and bring these other two diamonds in. So, like I said, there's two other kinds of diamonds that I have. There's probably other ones. This one is a sintered diamond, which means it's like your brake pads. It's a baked-in matrix. They last really well. They don't dish out. The problem is they do load pretty easily, and they are a little bit of a pain to flatten because these do dish out, just like some of the other stones we're going to talk about later. That's something I forgot to mention about these. These won't dish out. They are steel, so they're not going to dish out. You're not going to have to flatten these. They stay flat. Basically, when these wear out, you throw them away. With these, you can flatten these. And by flattening them, I mean you put them on a plate, you add an abrasive underneath. For these, you use aluminum oxide. I'll show you what that looks like. I hate to interrupt the video because I know we're having fun, but I do have to do the YouTuber thing and remind you that this channel is self-sponsored with all the affiliate links and stuff you see down below. Anything from knives, tools, EDC gear, and Blade HQ, anything, all the Amazon links, they all support the channel. It doesn't cost you anything at checkout. So I'll talk about that at the end of the video. Now let's go back to the knives. So this is just 240 grit red aluminum oxide powder. And you just put this on a glass plate, which I just simply move everything and use the plate underneath this, the glass plate. And then you just flatten them because as you can see, this stone is starting to dish and discolor. It gets a low spot here where you have a lot of wear because it is like an epoxy that this stuff has been bonded in. And it just basically sits in there. And as you rub the aluminum oxide in between this and the glass plate, it cleans that old layer of everything off and exposes fresh new diamond and a clean area. And it doesn't take much. You like just a few passes if you don't let them dish out too much. And you do it the same way with these, but these have a tendency to be a little harder to flatten than the others. And the grit is different. So these have a different grit system. You can see I've marked these with a Dremel, so I know which ones they are. This is a 100, but they have a different grit system. You can see there 160, 125, and 50 and 40, 50 over 40. So you got to kind of look at the tables and figure out what grit you're getting. But these work really well because you can use them for a lot longer. These have lasted me much longer than any of my diamond plates because, like I said, you can maintenance these. These are the Edge Pro Diamond Matrix. And like I said, I got these on Gritomatic. I cannot remember what these were. I got these on Gritomatic. Jared talks about them all the time. I just can't, for the life of me, remember what stones these were. These are great. They do have a downside. They will leave a black residue on your knife. Because this stuff, see how dark colored that is? It leaves a residue on your knife that you have to clean up, and sometimes it can be problematic. But there's the different types of diamond stones. They're really great if you're going to be all around sharpening and you're not doing anything specific. You can find grits for these Edge Pro Diamond stones, Edge Pro Diamond Matrix stones, all the way up to 4,000 grit. If you're wanting to get a super, super fine mirror polish. And then you can go from there with some of the other options like ceramic and things like that if you have a customer or if you want a super fine polish. But there you go. There's your diamonds. So I think we're going to bring in the next ones, which would be natural and then composites. The next type of stone are natural stones. Now, there's two kinds of natural stones. You have oil stones and you have water stones. This happens to be a natural Arkansas stone. It's an oil stone. You don't use water. I mean, you could use water on it if you wanted to, but I find that oil works way better. Oil lifts the grit away a lot better, and you have a lot less problems with loading and things like that if you use oil versus water. These are just cut out of stone. I can't remember the type of stone. I will put it down here. But like you can see, it's a natural stone. It has inclusions and holes and stuff like that, little pits and pock marks and things that are natural to it. The nice thing about these stones, Arkansas stones in particular, and the Japanese style water stones as well, natural water stones, these kind of polish as you sharpen. They don't have a lot of cutting horsepower. Sorry guys, I'm still getting used to these new lights. I'm trying to adjust them a little bit so that it looks a little bit. I guarantee it's because I'm looking at it through the lens finder on this phone, or the screen of this phone. But at any rate, these, especially the Arkansas oil stones, they don't have a lot of cutting horsepower. Like, they're not super aggressive. But the thing is, they don't require any maintenance. This stone was my great-grandfather's stone. My grandfather used it. I used it. My father used it. It was broken, but it was about this long right here. And my grandfather told me it used to be about this long. So it's gotten broken over successive generations. But these are nice because they require no maintenance. They do a really good job on a lot of like your carbon steels and your mid-range steels, not your super steels. This would not do great against a lot of other steels because it just does not have a lot of aggressive cutting power. You can see it's fairly fine. And they don't come in any specific grit. You have a coarse, you have fine, you have ultra fine. They have like, I think they call it a black or a translucent. Guys, I meant hard, soft, and translucent. Those are the different grades of Arkansas stones. Sorry, I'm just a dummy. So they don't have a grit structure because you never know what you're going to get with an Arkansas stone 100%. So these are nice though, because like I said, they don't require any maintenance. They're great for kitchen knives. They do a good job of polishing up the edge and giving you a good edge. These work really good for like 154 cm, D2, some of those steels. 14C28N takes a screaming edge off of natural stones. And then the Japanese natural water stones, pretty much the same. It's just cut out of a block. I put a picture of it up. I'll put a picture of it up over here to remind myself. And they're cut out and then they're put on, they're put on a flat, and they're really good, but they're expensive. Natural stones are expensive. So that leads me to the next one, because I know I said I was going to do natural and then composites. And so we're going to talk about composite stones. So composite stones can be done a couple of different ways. Now, this is a two-sided sharp pebble that I got off Amazon. There's a link to most of these stones down in the description below. But this is a 600 and 2000 grit. And then in between the 600 and 2000, I have a 1000 grit kingstone. Now, these can be done a couple different ways. Oh, I'm sorry, this is a 10,000 grit Naniwa Superstone. So, geez, I keep hitting the tripod. So a lot of times these are a composite of maybe aluminum oxide, which we're going to talk about the actual aluminum oxide stones that I have here in a minute. They can be a composite of that, and they can also be cuttings. Some of your more expensive composite stones are the cuttings from natural stones, which they can get pricey. Some of the stones like this are done that way. But basically what they are is they're the abrasive that's set in some sort of matrix. A lot of times it's like a magnesium, in these, it's like a magnesium cement. That's why these are splash and go. And then these, I'm not 100% sure how these are bound, but these feel a lot to me more like the natural Japanese stones. These you soak in water. They cut really well. They form a nice slurry. I just did a bunch of kitchen knives, so you can see that they do get cuts in them. You can see where the tip of the knife goes in. So these have to be maintained a lot like the other stones. And the way you do that is, you can do it a couple ways. You can take a coarser stone. You can take the 600 to do the 1000. You could do the 1000 to do the 2000, and you use the 2000 to do the 10,000. And you just rub them together until you get a nice flat surface. You mark them with a cross hatch with pencil, and you maintenance them. But these cut really well, really fast. The problem is they do require a lot of maintenance. Like if I was going to do a straight razor today, I would absolutely have to do it. I would have to maintenance this stone today if I was going to use it again today on something like a straight razor. So pluses and minuses, but they do cut really well. They give you a nice overall finish on the product. I don't know why my phone does not want to focus today. So they give you a really good overall finish, and they work for a lot of steels. But if you're talking about some of those super high-end steels, we start getting up into stuff like 20CV, S90V, S110V. You're not going to want to use these because they're not as good on stuff like that. And same with the next batch. I mean, you can still do it. It's still going to do it. You'll get a passable edge, but it won't be as good as if you use, say, the diamonds. That's where those diamonds come in, is some of those super steels. They will cut anything. So let's go ahead and get these out of the way and take a look at the final group, which is another one that in concert with diamonds can get you where you're going without needing these other stones. Sorry about that, guys. I actually lied. We are not going to just look at the last category. I forgot about these are aluminum oxides. Now, we did talk about the composite stones. These are very similar to composite stones. The thing is, when you get an aluminum oxide stone, you know it's only going to be aluminum oxide. And these are done in the same composite fashion. They're in some sort of matrix. They're pressed. This is a 400 grit. These you can get a very, very consistent grit, rating because they're going to measure all of the ingredient grit that goes into the matrix. So these are great for a lot of steels, especially like carbon steels, things like that. And you can sharpen pretty much a lot of your higher end steels on aluminum oxide as well. As you can see, this stone, remember I was talking about dishing? This is an old, I couldn't find the 600 grit that I wanted to use. See how that stone is dished? My actual 600 grit is off Summers. It's off Summers. These are really good. And then you have another one, which is silica carbide, which actually silica carbide is what you use for flattening these stones. Now, I don't use this to flatten them. I use this for knocking edges off if they've chipped, but you use powdered silica carbide on a glass plate to flatten these stones. So you never use, like if you're flattening aluminum oxide, you don't use aluminum oxide to flatten it. That's not something you want to do. If you're using diamond, you don't want to use diamond. You want to use something, you saw like I was talking about, like I'm using something else to flatten the diamonds. And what you're trying to do is you're just trying to make sure that you're using something that is not the same as this. I don't know exactly what the science is. It just does not work. Like if you use an aluminum oxide really to flatten aluminum oxide, it doesn't work real well. I actually use silica carbide to flatten a lot of times the ones you just saw because it just gives you, it's just easier. Like it's definitely easier to do it that way with those and just use the silica carbide. But yeah, these are the ones that you'll get when you get an Edge Pro. I've sharpened S90V on this. I don't seem to have any issues. I know people like, oh, carbide tear out, and Jared's talked about it. That carbide tear out's not an actual thing. There is some carbide cracking and shattering you can get. But by the time you're starting to notice that, your knife is getting dull anyway, and you're going to have to resharpen it. So I've never really had an issue with it. You can't sharpen Maximat or Rex 121 with these. I will tell you that. You got to use diamond for those. And maybe the stones we're about to talk about for some finishing if you want to risk it. But, you know, usually those knives you're going to do pretty coarse anyway. So there you go. There's the aluminum oxide and silica carbide. Now let's get into some ceramics. Final type of stone is ceramics. Now these are the ones I was saying you could use these in conjunction with your diamond plates and your diamond stones to kind of get you where you're going if you want to go to ultra high grit. This is a 12,000 grit. This is an ultra fine ceramic from Spyderco. They don't have a set grit for these, but they do work really well for honing some of your harder steels. These stones are great because you basically can do all the steels with a combination of these and diamond and still get that super fine mirror polished look that you get from the natural stones and the water stones, and you get some really good cutting capability. This is a completely fired and cured, it's ceramic just like you would get in a piece of crockware or stuff like that. It's just done in materials. What they do is this is an aluminum oxide that has been basically cooked and cooked and cooked and baked into this ceramic, and it's basically like having a sapphire plate. Same thing with this, except this is a much softer. This actually will dish. This plate will, these Shapton ceramic whetstones actually will dish out a little bit. You do have to flatten them. And you can do it with basically the same ways that I did some of the other stones. But these are great because they get you, these have the feel of like a water stone or a natural stone. You get the feedback from the stone. I will tell you, these do not. These are very, very slick. There is no bite. I like the aluminum oxide and I like these type of ceramics because when you're on the stone, you get a feedback. You get a physical feedback. You can feel the stone bite. You can feel it doing its work. On these ceramics like this, I really don't feel that. It just feels slippery. And it's not that it's not coarse and it's not that it's not cutting. It gives you a really fine polish, but you can easily slip and not get your angle maintained properly on these. And so these are more of an advanced stone. These are a good middle of the road thing. Now they are expensive. Ceramic stones are always expensive. I forget what I paid for this, but they're not cheap. These, at the time I got the first one of these that I had, I think these were $300. The price on these have come way down. Now I have several different grits. There's a 12,000, I have a 10,000, I have an 8,000. I have a 5,000, but you can get these Shapton ceramics in a broad spectrum of grit, and they do an amazing job. If you don't want to spend that much money, you know, not everybody's doing straight. This is for knives. I have two of these. One of these is for straight razors. Most of these more expensive ones like this are for straight razors. But if you're not doing some of the higher mirror polished edges like I do for some customers, because their knives are show knives, and they're going in a collection and they want like a 12,000, 15, 20,000 grit, which I don't go above 10, 12 anymore because it really doesn't make sense. You can't see the difference. But yeah, this combination of stones, if you have a set of diamonds that gets you to the close to the grit you want, like I said, with the diamond matrix stones, you can actually get to, what is this one? This is an 1100. There's a 4,000 grit for this. And 4,000 grit off these diamond matrix stones is really, really polished. And then you can work your way up through these to like the 8,000, the 10,000, the 12,000 and things like that. So there's a lot of stones out there. Like, just like, if you don't have to invest. This isn't even close to half my stones. You don't have to invest that kind of money in it if you're not doing it like I do professionally, where people pay me. So I just thought we'd do a quick overview of stones. We haven't done it ever really. I don't think we've ever really talked about the different stones. And then there's other things out there that go along with sharpening, like strops and hones, ceramic rods, different types of sharpening systems, which I really don't like the sharpening systems, but I just thought this would be fun to talk about and just see how you guys liked it. So let's turn this around and do some final thoughts. Guys, that's it. We hadn't talked about stones for a while, and I've had some people ask. There's always questions about sharpening stones. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm chasing the algorithm. Some of the videos I've done that have done the best have been about sharpening stones. So I thought we would do that. Guys, if you want to support the channel, like, share, subscribe, drop a comment, hit the bell icon. That's about the best thing you can do. If you do hit the bell icon, make sure you get notifications turned on your device. You will not get notified of the 9 videos, 5 shorts, 3 live feeds that I try to do a week. Live feeds, it all depends on what's going on in the world. And with my life, life does get in the way. Other ways you can support the channel if you want to do it financially, down below in the description. I have got a ton of affiliate links that I've set up. I mentioned it in the mid-roll, but I have stones, pretty much all the stones you've seen there, you can find through my affiliate links and things like that. Other ways you can do it if you want to support the channel financially, I have a membership down below that is tier-based. Everyone saves $5 off my sharpening service. Everyone has access to my gilded server. Premium and baseline tier members are automatically entered into giveaways that I do pretty much monthly, as often as I can. And premium tier members have access to a sharpening tutorial series that is up on YouTube for them exclusively. And a final way is I have a merchandise store on Ember Shirt Co. And I can save you 10% at checkout anywhere on Ember Shirt Co. with my coupon code CrazySharp, capital C, capital S. CrazySharp saves you 10% at checkout. And if you send me pictures of you wearing my merchandise, I will put them in a video. Guys, I love you all. Keep it clean in the comment section. If it's your birthday, happy birthday. And I will see you next time.